Hello, this is Pixel Freak, and this is part 66 of the Final Fantasy Dimensions walkthrough. As I mentioned in the previous piece, we are on our way trying to find the tablet to allow us to speak the Lufinian language. Now, in this game, I think it's not a tablet. If I remember right, Final Fantasy 1, it was a tablet. In this game, it's like a stone. I think it's the Rosetta Stone, which is a very fabled artifact. But you end up in Rosetta Tower. We have to climb the tower, and then there's a pretty cool boss fight in this place. You might want to make sure that you're leveled up pretty good, because if I remember right, this is the first boss, at least that I ran into, that was truly difficult. You might need a little bit of strategy here, so it is going to matter what classes you take and what level you guys are leveled up to. You can't simply just over-level yourself and then fight your way through. Yeah. So those treasure boxes you just saw there, you'll actually go around and you can pick them up, and then you'll have to swing back by and you have to kind of double back, but not really. You'll find that when you're back in that room, it'll look familiar again, and you're like, oh yeah, those treasure boxes are there, and you'll have to go back and get them. Like many other dungeons, this one doesn't really have any enemies that are too noteworthy. I found that most of the game that was the case. There's not too much to be afraid of when it comes to the normal enemies in this game. It's very different than Final Fantasy IV, the remake of 4, where some of the enemies, especially on the hard difficulty, some of the enemies are basically bosses. It feels like every fight's a boss fight. Now, this game, not so much. Even going through towards the end of the game, there really isn't that bad. There's actually an item as we kind of close out this chapter called the Moogle Charm. That made its first debut in Final Fantasy VI. That, or maybe it's a Moogle Bangle, or I think it's a charm. In Final Fantasy VI, it was a charm. I think it's a charm in this game too. Anyways, it's a accessory that you can use that will stop all encounters. It's going to be a very important item that you pick up. And you're going to notice that I use that later in the walkthrough and just skip all of the normal encounters because my allies are strong enough to just kind of cruise through the game at that point, and it doesn't really matter that I fight those random encounters. Plus, you might as well avoid them later on in the game when you need to be focusing on the bosses rather than the random encounter enemies anyways. Alright, so right here I made a job mistake and I need to change jobs. Make sure that I have enough healing power to cover my team, because even though the mask, he does quite a bit of damage, and I think he has some white magic spells, it's just not enough. And having that red mage in there just makes no sense. The red mage, when you max it out, has an amazing ability of double cast, which is what I was going for with that character, Diana, and that actually floats her to the end of the game because she ends up using both black magic and white magic. I go back and forth between the jobs towards the end of the game, just using that double cast, and that double cast is insanely valuable. So here you're going to encounter the boss of Rosetta Tower. This is this big guardian here, this sentry, comes to life. The first encounter you have with this enemy is going to wipe you out right away. You just get knocked all down, and then the mask kind of gives you a big hurrah, let's get back up, warriors, let's do this thing, or something along those lines. Then you get back up and you fight it again for real. When you're fighting it for real, this enemy does some really heavy damage. And that's really the big problem here, is that I don't think up until this point we have seen an enemy that does the amount of damage that this enemy does. You're going to need a lot of healing, but also this is the first fight that I ran into where I really needed to have those buffs. So haste, I think, is kind of an option, but protect is going to be a big necessity in this fight, especially if you're lower levels. Now, of course, you can fight this fight and not have the buffs. You may find that this is an easy fight if your particular mix of allies just happens to have the right jobs for that. But with my mix of guys where I had some casters and some melee characters, I found that it was very important that I buffed up. Now the ninja actually has a benefit of having a single ally cure spell. So you can do spot heals with your ninja while you're buffing up. And the mask, if I remember correctly, also has the ability to cast, I think, white magic and can therefore help buff up. So do a shell to everybody and a protect to everybody right away. See, there you go. Yeah, the mask does have white and black magic. So get that protect up right away, get the shell up right away, and then use one of those characters to haste just the characters that you'd like to see hasted. Maybe the whole team. There is an F ability that you have, a fusion ability, that does cast Hastega. I can't think of what it is. Might be called Hastega. I don't remember exactly how you get it. I don't cover the fusion abilities in this walkthrough just because it was an optional piece and I didn't feel like doing an in-depth guide on it. I will probably do one in the near future. But with my particular setup here, I have enough people to heal and the spot heals from the ninja that it was pretty easy to keep my team going while I buffed them up, and then at that point I just went all offense. Now the kind of unfortunate part here is because this is the Dark Crystal team, your summons don't have a lot of healing ability. The White Crystal team has the light warriors, whereas White, they have a lot more healing that can be done with their summons. These summons in this team are mostly damage, and I guess that's probably a good thing too, because it allows Alba to do damage while I'm kind of buffing up as well. But anyways, that was my tactic, is just to keep my buffs up. Protect is probably the most important, followed by haste, and then maybe even shell. I'm not sure exactly what kind of magic this enemy does, but I don't remember it being too complicated beyond he just does a ton of damage to everybody at the same time, and you need to have constant heals in order to keep up with it. So just keep that going for a while, and eventually the enemy goes down. You've got your Rosetta stone tablet, and you can start understanding people back in Lufinia.